everybody, Michael here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Want to welcome you to another editing video. It's just past Veterans Day here in the United States, and I thought it would be a nice idea to do a quick editing video of a couple of modern military warbirds and a couple of vintage World War II warbirds as well. My best friend Matt and I, a couple weeks ago, went down to Atlanta Airport and attended the Delta Airlines Veterans Day celebration, where they had close to 50 modern and vintage World War II planes fly in for a really nice celebration. We caught most of the arrivals over the course of the Wednesday and Thursday morning, which was the day of the event. Attended the event, and then my friend Matt caught all the departures. And also, while we're at it, I figured I'd do a little Q&A session with you all. I posted a question on Instagram for people to, not a question, but a request to some of my friends on Instagram to send me some questions so you can get to know a little bit more about me. So let's go ahead and get started with the editing. And we've already got Lightroom pulled up, and the planes that we're going to edit today, we've got a pair of A-10C models that were part of the modern warbirds that came in. Got a F-4U Corsair, and we got a B-25J model Mitchell, and an F-16C. So let's go ahead and get started with the A-10s. And like we always do, I'm going to probably do things up just a little bit differently than I normally do. But we're going to go ahead and start with the cropping. And just hit the crop button, drag in on this upper left-hand corner. We'll bring these guys in. Get them cropped and centered nice. Going to bring the crop in just a little more because I'm going to get rid of those trees there at the bottom. And just a hair bit more. And that should be good right there. Hit our healing. Now, if you have gotten the newest update to Lightroom Classic, you're going to notice when you hit the healing icon, you've got 3 different healing methods now. You've got content aware remove, and you have just the plain heal, and you have the clone stamp. I'm just going to stick with the regular healing like I normally do in all my photos. And clone stamp is basically exactly what it means. It's clone stamp. And I'm not quite sure what the content aware remove feature is and how it works. I haven't really tinkered with it. Maybe I'll address it in another upcoming video once I've done some research on it. So in the meantime, we're just going to stick with the regular healing, and we'll go ahead and get rid of some of these dust spots. There's one right there. There's a little bit of the trees just left over here. We'll go ahead and get rid of that, although that doesn't look like that's going to work. So I'll probably just go back in and crop that out real quick. So there's another spot there, and just a little bit of the sky artifacts. So now we're done with the healing. Let's go ahead and recrop this just tiny little bit. Get rid of the trees in that lower right hand corner, and that should take care of them. Okay, down to lens correction. Remove the aberrations, enable profile corrections based on the lens. These are all shot on my 150 to 600 millimeter Sigma lens. And we're going to start with the exposure first. We're going to go ahead and hit the teardrop on exposure. We're going to just bring the exposure up to make it a little easier to work with the photo. It was kind of a semi-cloudy day. but the sun was still giving us some good light from behind. So we'll go ahead, we'll up the exposure to 1.7 on the positive and scroll down, hit the Alt button, click on the whites teardrop. Not seeing anything there, so we're going to give it some positive whites. And just till you start to see some artifacts there, and then just back off. And then do the same thing with the blacks, except we're going to go left hand on the slider. And we're going to advance it to the left till we just start to see some artifacts. And we're going to back off that. And we'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And have a look here. We're going to add just a little bit of shadows. Not very much, because it was a pretty well lit day. Landing gear lit up really nice. And give it some contrast. And we're going to come on down and do some noise reduction and sharpening. Now all of these photos that we're editing in the video today, these are not going to be anything that I put up on Jet Photos. These are just going to wind up on Facebook and Instagram, because these are very, very small aircraft shot from a pretty good distance away from where we were on the north parking deck. Everything that flew in for the Veterans Day event came in mainly on the north side of the airport, and because they're so small, there's just so much that I can do as far as editing. These are not going to be really anything that Jet Photos is ever going to accept, but they make great Facebook and Instagram stuff. Let's go ahead and give it some sharpening here. And don't really need too much sharpening. Again, these are not perfect shots. And we're already starting to see some artifacts. If I give it too much sharpening, I'm going to back off the sharpening just a little bit. Probably give it a little bit more noise reduction, just a tiny little bit. And that looks pretty good. Let's go back up and see highlights. Give it just a little bit of negative highlights, not very much. And just a little bit of dehaze. And the clouds did have kind of almost purplish. This was purplish look to them. It was fairly early in the morning when a lot of these guys arrived, so play with clarity just a tiny little bit. Just a little, still getting those artifacts. We'll kind of lay off the sharpening. Take away just a hair bit of the clarity. And maybe a touch bit more of contrast. And I think that'll do it with that photo. All right, let's go on to the next one, which is going to be the F4U Corsair. And if you're a 70s child like I am, you will remember a long forgotten show called Baba Black Sheep. And these aircraft featured very prominently in the show. And I just like the look of the the wings personally. That's my favorite part of the Corsair. So go ahead and we'll get that cropped in. As you can see, this is 403 millimeters on the lens, and it's still pretty tiny. So we're just going to do the best we can. So, and we've cropped it in enough that there's really not going to be any dust spots here. And lens corrections are done. Hit that, start to give it some exposure. That's looking, I'd say right about there should be fine. About 1.5 on the exposure. And come down and give it just a little bit of white. A little bit of negative black. Going to give it just a tiny little bit of shadow, but not much. And some contrast. And go ahead and dump in the noise reduction. As you can see, it's making a little bit of difference, but still, as I said, these are not going to be worthy of attempting to upload on Jet Photos by any means. Add a little bit of sharpening to that. That looks pretty good. Little bit of highlights. Just a little bit of dehaze, but now we're kind of clipping into the whites and the blacks, so we're going to go ahead and back off those just a little bit. And that's going to pretty much do it for that one. So I got on Instagram about a week ago and asked a lot of my Instagram followers to send me some questions. And I picked out a few of the better ones and figured I'd answer them for you. So first question is, how long have I been doing aviation photography? And the answer to that is since about 2015. I had a the first digital camera that I had was an old Nikon. I forgot how many megapixels it was, but it was like the first commercial digital. Oh, it was an 8 megapixel camera, and this is from way back in the early 2000s. I want to say 2001, 2002, somewhere around there. It's an 8 megapixel Canon. Didn't even do landscape. It was just basically your almost square picture, maybe very slightly rectangular, but was not landscape by any means that you can do with cameras now. And it took good photos. I look back on some of them and kind of laugh now at how they look compared to what you get off of a DSLR camera. So I go back and I kind of laugh at some of my early stuff. But yeah, I've been doing aviation photography since around 2015. I am a lifelong aviation person, av geek, airplane fanatic, whatever you want to call it. And that's been a lifelong thing. And from a very early age, if I were outside and heard aircraft flying over, I could tell you the make and model just by the engines alone, whether it was a Mad Dog, MD-88, MD-90, 757, 747, etc. Mainly just on the commercial stuff. But my love for aviation goes back to literally my childhood. So here we're doing the B-25 Mitchell now. We've got it, went ahead and got it cropped, brought our exposure up. Need to go ahead and check for dust spots real quick, and there's one apparent one right there. Go ahead and get rid of that. Dial the exposure up a little bit. Got our lens correction done. And it definitely got some white artifacts in here. And we're not going to get rid of all of them, so we're just going to find that little happy medium point there. Blacks, give it some negative till we start seeing some artificial or some artifacts, and back off that. Give it just a little bit more exposure. There we go. And some contrast. Shadows just a cinch. Another question that people ask me a great deal is, what is in my camera bag? And I primarily shoot with a Canon EOS T6 Rebel. It's my first DSLR camera. And my primary lens is my Sigma 150 to 600 millimeter, and that's the contemporary lens. I also keep a nifty 50 in my bag, as well as the two kit lenses, the 75 to 300 and the 18 to, was it 55, whatever the small kit lens is that came with the camera. And that's primarily what I shoot with for video, or excuse me, for photographs. For video, I have an old Sony CyberShot that I use for the few actual plane spotting videos that I've done. And I also shoot video on my iPhone 8 Plus, and I have a DJI Osmo Mobile 3. It's the little platform that makes your phone like a little steady cam. And I've shot a couple of videos on that. I think the two life flight helicopter videos that are on my channel were shot with the DJI. So I have a nice little variety of stuff that I use. I also have a couple of tripods. And I'll probably do a more detailed what's in my camera bag video at some point in the future. So there's our B-25 looking really good. And let's see if we added, I don't think we added any contrast yet to this. And highlights. That's looking good. Just a little bit of dehaze. And that's our B-25 looking really nice. I personally like the B, out of all the aircraft that we saw at the event, the B-25 is one of my favorites. And the A-10s are always a hit when they come in. I was really disappointed because we didn't get the F-18s this year. They had to cancel out due to operational issues. So we were lucky to have gotten as many aircraft as we did. But we got a C-17. We got some T-6 Texans, some P-38 or T-38s, excuse me, the little Air Force trainer aircraft. Some Stearman, a biplane, and this is the first year they actually had some Army ground artillery equipment. They had a personnel carrier and a artillery or a mobile artillery piece, which is really cool. But the highlight was actually getting into the cockpit of the C-17. We had a ball, and we also went up the little upper hatch and looked out over the entire hangar that everything was in, and it's quite a view from the top hatch of a C-17. Learned quite a few neat little things as well. So we had fun. So last photo we're doing is going to be the F-16C, and this is from the Alabama Air National Guard, and this is one of the red tails. And I got to talk to the pilot during the event after they arrived, and he came hauling ass in, and when he landed, he flared the aircraft with the main gear down on the runway, and then used aerodynamic braking and used most all of the runway to come to a stop. And a pilot was heard over ATC calling him a show off, and he just kind of replied back and laughed. We thought that was pretty funny. Not really any dust spots at all here, so I think we're good. And then I wasn't able to catch him leaving on Friday after the event, but my friend Matt got him on video. And what was funny was he wanted to do an unrestricted climb out, and he wanted to first go to 18,000, and then they negotiated it down to unrestricted climb to 14, and he just hauled ass down the runway, got up, gear up, stayed maybe 10, 15 feet above the runway, and then right at the end of the runway, he went vertical. And check out my friend Matt's video. Hartsfield Matt is his YouTube handle, and he's my best friend and does a lot of great local and a lot of great local videos, and he's also gone out of state spotting. He's been up in San Francisco, San Diego, he's been overseas, stuff like that, and he loves doing air show type things as well, so go check out his channel. So go ahead, and now that we've got this one little artifact, so we're going to just give it the little happy medium, play with the blacks, slightly back off that. Alright, I already did that. I'm going to give it just a little bit more exposure. That looks good about right there. And I love the paint scheme on this. I forgot what it was called specifically, but it's different than the regular paint that they do the F-16s in. It had I don't want to say it was a special name, it was just called something. And again, these are pretty distant shots. This is 361 millimeters. On here, a little bit of the A and the B on Alabama are missing. Give it a little bit of sharpening. That's looking pretty good. Give it some contrast. A little bit on the highlights. DAs, that looks pretty good. And I think that's going to do it for that. So another question people ask me is, where are my favorite places to plane spot and do photography? And right now, only two. Hartsfield-Jackson, KATL, and Peachtree-DeKalb Airport, or KPDK. And PDK is the closer one, but it's mainly general aviation and business jets. Hartsfield is just mainly commercial, and then some of the military stuff that we get in for the Veterans Day event each year. So those are the two places that I spot primarily. I did have an opportunity to go down to Florida back in September for vacation and had planned on going to Orlando for a day of spotting there, but that just didn't pan out because of weather and family stuff. So I may do a separate trip down to Orlando at some point. Other places that I would love to go is back out to LAX. Had an opportunity to go out to LAX a couple of years ago on the retirement flight of the Delta 777s. That was October 30th of 2020. So I got to be on that particular 777 that retired on the Atlanta to LAX run, and then the final flight was JFK to LAX the next day. I did not go on that one, but would have been really fun to go on, but didn't get a chance to do it. But other places that I would love to go to shoot, I want to go to Chicago O'Hare, any of the airports around the New York metro area, JFK in particular, Anchorage, Alaska. Would love to go to Princess Juliana, and Detroit Metro is also an airport that I've shot at because I'm from Michigan originally, and my mom lives in the Detroit Metro area. So a couple of vacations ago, I was able to go hit Detroit Metro a few times. Oh, and Dallas-Fort Worth is another place that I would love to go to, and Phoenix, and Orlando, and Miami. So, anyhow, that's going to do it for this video. I really appreciate you taking the time out to check it out. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully answered some of your questions about myself. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any other questions that you would like to pose to me for a future video, let me know in the comments, and I'll comment back to you if you comment to me. And once again, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye now.